Good evening. Today we are going to discuss the organizational design, structure, and change of the management style for Health Partners in Minnesota. Just a little bit of information about Health Partners. The organization was founded in 1957 and is the largest consumer-governed healthcare organization in the United States. It has over 1.8 million members and more than 26,000 employees. Health Partners consists of many clinics and hospitals based mostly in Minnesota and western Wisconsin and serves approximately 1.2 million patients per year. The organization works through the stated values of compassion, excellence, partnership, and integrity. And Health Partners strives to integrate the science and technology of healthcare with the compassion of the people who deliver the care to make healthcare as effective and affordable as possible. Now, while Health Partners is a well-run organization overall and is an important part of the community and a thriving company, there's always areas for improvement. The organization has been making strides in improving the quality and methods in providing healthcare as well as controlling costs, but is currently struggling with its management style. This was highlighted recently by the contentious contract negotiations with its biggest union and a decrease in employee satisfaction and engagement that this negotiation caused, as reflected on a recent employee satisfaction survey. To improve and realize greater success, Health Partners must change its management style to become a stronger operation and increase employee involvement. The current management structure at Health Partners is a mechanistic organization, as it is highly centralized power and controlled communication. The power is mainly centered in the upper management, and all decisions are made there with communication filtering down to the employees with a minimum of input from the employees. While this style was effective in the past, and it can be effective today to control costs, it does not work effectively in a business environment that is constantly changing. In an interview with Daily, Joseph Pfeiffer stated that management in the healthcare industry is lacking because leaders tend to only take a shallow view of the industry and the need to change rather than embrace the sweeping changes that are being called for in an evolving industry. In order for Health Partners to remain an industry leader into the future, the changes to leadership style need to become more inclusive and collaborative. In essence, they need to transform from that mechanistic style of management to a conscious management model. As it currently runs, Health Partners Management works from a position above the rest of the organization, and the communication about the company is controlled by management before being disseminated to the employees. This tight control of communication has led to a lack of trust by the employees when they receive communication. And again, an example of this in the contract negotiations with its largest union. Those negotiations were contentious and drawn out. And to further complicate matters, management released information directly to the union members that should have only been disseminated to the members through the union in reference to those negotiations. Management has chosen a passive-aggressive conflict culture approach in which it does not acknowledge the conflicts and just continues to operate in the same manner it has in the past. Conscious management is built on the foundation of the four pillars of conscious capitalism: purpose, leadership, stakeholder orientation, and culture. As stated by Sisodia, he goes on to summarize the stakeholder orientation and summarizes it with the acronym SPICE, meaning society, partners, investors, customers, and employees. For an organization to be a true steward of conscious capitalism, it must ensure it is oriented for all stakeholders. And Health Partners currently does not practice conscious management, as it does not take steps to ensure that the employees are taken into consideration in its everyday practices and decision making. To look at this, we moved to Kotter's 8-step change model, and Dr. John D. Kotter created an 8-step model for leading change. Those steps are establishing a sense of urgency, creating a guiding coalition, developing a vision and strategy, communicating the change vision, empowering broad-based action, generating short-term wins, consolidating change and producing more wins, and anchoring the new approaches in the company culture. The first step Health Partners must take to change its management style is to recognize that change is needed and create a sense of urgency about implementing that change. Tillman suggests a couple different ways in which to do so. One would be through creating a crisis, and the other would be through having open dialogue with its throughout the organization. But Health Partners chose not to take this route when it had the chance, as both were present during the contract negotiations but were not taken advantage of. With the current employee satisfaction survey showing decreased satisfaction among the employees, that sense of urgency has come back into play, as is obvious that the time to make changes now. By creating an open and honest avenue of communication with all levels of the organization, Health Partners can begin to affect the change. To accomplish this, management must create a team to shape and implement the change that includes all levels of the organization. This team should be composed of management representatives as well as representatives from the unions to ensure that all parties are equally represented and have a voice in the change. Once this group is formed, they can collaborate and develop a vision for the change. The team will in turn help the creation of other smaller localized teams in different departments to help leadership evolve in those departments towards a conscious leadership model. Once the vision and scope of the change has been developed, the change will then need to be communicated to all levels of the organization. This will help all levels of the organization understand the management style that is going into effect and the timeline for change. The next step, empowering the change, will most likely be the most difficult as the new style of management begins to take effect and the managers and employees find themselves in new roles. To continue the change, it will be important for management to highlight the success the change is making. It can be found in individual departments who embrace the new tenets of conscious and servant leadership. By recognizing the success of these departments, the organization can highlight the fact that new leadership style can be effective for all departments. It can then pull those successes together and ensure the process is spread throughout the organization as more departments come in line with the change and realize their own success. Once these successes become apparent, they will become part of the overall culture of the organization. The biggest challenge to the change in leadership style is going to be resistance and uncertainty from all levels. Managers are going to have to relinquish some control to the employees, and the employees will have to learn to take more responsibility. Greenlock provides 4 responsibilities that need to be embraced: transferring ownership of the work to employees, creating an environment in which employees want to take ownership, developing capabilities and competence, and creating conditions that challenge and foster lifelong learning. Of these 4, the one that is most likely going to create the most conflict is creating an environment in which employees want ownership. With this strong culture developed over the past 68 years, many of the employees at Health Partners have come to accept their role, and some will not want to take ownership of their work. They may find comfort in being assigned tasks and not want to move beyond that, even if they are not satisfied with their jobs. Furthermore, the managers are used to holding centralized authority and may not want to relinquish this. This is why it will be important for the organization to create the cross-function teams to work with the employees and managers of all levels to ensure they embrace the change and have the skills needed to implement it. The first strategy will be to focus on departments that already employ conscious management and learn from these experiences. Since this is a structural change that is changing organization-wide processes, management, and communications, there will be a great deal of resistance. By highlighting the departments that have already embraced this change and are practicing it ahead of the organizational change, those departments can be consulted on how the change was implemented and the success they realized. As a leader in one of these departments, I can provide advice with some of the other leaders I worked with to help guide the implementation of the change to conscious management. The department leaders can also attest to the success that can be achieved, as we are one of the highest ranking departments operationally and have thus remained remote due to our success when other departments have been recalled to the office due to poor performance. The main emphasis in driving the change in leadership will be employing emotional intelligence and empathy. The first step would be increasing self-awareness. Self-awareness requires courage and deep introspection about oneself. For a manager to move from a dictatorial approach to a conscious management style, they must have the courage to look at themselves and determine their ability and commitment to the change. Some may find that they are not able to make the change and may need to look for a new role in the organization. Others may be intimidated by the work required to effect the change. I've personally been through this more than once myself and know that it takes a great deal of effort and self-confidence to make the change. By setting an example in my department and consulting with managers about the questions they have, they will be able to make the best choices for themselves. Once self-awareness is in place, empathy is the next step, as there's going to be resistance from the employees to the change as well. Some of them may choose not to accept their change roles, while others will need to be coached on what is to be expected of them. This is a process that will only take place over time and through effort and patience. It requires that all members of the organization buy into the change and successfully communicating and implementing the change can only be accomplished by communicating with empathy to create an open and honest communication with all parties. In conclusion, Health Partners is a strong organization and an industry leader in healthcare. This does not, however, guarantee future success. In order for Health Partners to maintain its standing in the industry, the organization must move beyond its traditional leadership structure in which decisions and power are controlled at the highest levels and filter this power down throughout the company to ensure that it is capable of innovation and adapting to an ever-changing industry at all times. By changing to conscious management structure, Health Partners will involve all levels of the organization in its decision making to allow it to recognize all changes and react to them quickly while improving employee satisfaction. Conscious management will allow them to hit their goals and remain at the forefront of the healthcare industry in the upper Midwest.